start with you. You're a lobbyist. Explain to people what specifically a lobbyist does and why that role is necessary in government.
Well, let me start by saying, Alexis, I am so tired of lobbyists always getting a bad rap. The reality is that lobbyists come from Capitol Hill. Usually they start out in their 20s. They get the experience very early on of how Congress works. They usually have law degrees, MBAs, PhDs. These are very learned professionals. They go out and then they help trade associations, universities, hospitals. They help individuals. They help small businesses as well in navigating the halls of Congress. And so it's not as if this is some sinister profession. After all, we're protected through the First Amendment, the right to petition Congress for the redress of grievances. So we certainly have a role that the framers anticipated long before now. And so we have, in a lot of instances, we have helped the legislative process in continuing through this crisis and through this health care reform that we're experiencing now.
Okay, Chris, do you agree?
Absolutely not. I think that she's right in the fact that they have the right to lobby Congress, but why do they have to give them money? Why don't they spend the money on convincing the public that their ideas are great? If we were in a court of law, would you like it if your attorney was paying off the jury? I certainly wouldn't.
It's not about paying off the jury. I mean, for certain. As a lobbyist, that is not what my job is. My job is to merely take my client's message to Congress and to allow them to weigh in as stakeholders on legislation and to indicate what the adverse impact could be. It's not about giving politicians money. It's not about giving politicians money.
You're donating money to various different charities on behalf of these politicians. You're giving money to them. You're helping them basically push the issue. There's no need for that. Advocate on the base issue. I have no problem with you doing that. But when I see some fundraiser being, held by some lobbying group on behalf of some politician, that bothers me.
All right, let's bring in Jake here. Jake, I mean, this is a hotly contested issue, and I understand everybody's points here. How does this compare to the type of selling that you do?
Well, first of all, this isn't really about selling. I'm kind of listening here, and everybody has a point of view. But I think at the end of the day, with all this fighting that does go on, who ends up losing but the consumer, but the people who are at home who need health care, who want prevention? I've been the chair of the Governor's Council of Physical Fitness and Sport here for California for the past 4 years, and there are some simple things that I think everyone should think about when they go about wanting to either lobby or wanting to get things really taken care of. It's about passion. If you're passionate, I was a fat kid with a bad stutter growing up. My dad bought me a set of weights, and it changed my life. Not only did it build my body, but the weights built my confidence and self-esteem. The second thing is focus. Don't look and try to cure the ills of the entire world. Focus in on one or two initiatives. What I look at here in California, we wanted to attack the kids issue with childhood obesity. We're really doing a gangbuster job. We brought in companies like General Mills, Anthem Blue Cross, Kaiser Permanente. Instead of, I'm not a big believer in regulation, I'm a big believer in education, as well as responsibility. All of us need to be responsible for our families and be responsible if you don't see commercials on television for Coca-Cola say to eat to go out and drink a six-pack of Coke. It's everything in moderation. So it's education, it's focus, it's understanding, and it's passion. So we can look and fight all we want, but we need to all come together and work together, as the president is talking about doing. We've got to work together, or we're in big trouble, gang.
Chris, let me ask you this, because I think Jake raised a great point. I mean, people like Zara and others who are in the lobbyist business, they're very well educated, they're very smart specifically about these issues, and they are very passionate about them. So is there a role for lobbyists? I know you're not happy about the money, but is there a role?
Absolutely. That was my first point. I agree totally that they should be out there advocating for their cause and their issue. That's what their job is supposed to be. But when you're giving money, you take a look at the hottest real estate market in the entire country, it's Washington, D.C. There's a reason behind that. There's so many dollars flowing out of Washington right now, and there's a fight over these dollars. And it's not just, we're talking about health care, we're talking about financial regulation. It's also talking about big businesses going in there and vying for various different contracts. Yes, push for your issue, but you know what? If there's a dollar attached to it, you have to pay some politician off or donate some money and have some hospital donate on their behalf that they didn't pay for. I do have a problem with that.
Zara?
Well, are you then
Hey, guys,
saying that, are you saying that constituents don't have a voice with their members of Congress? Are you kidding me? I mean, that's how members of Congress get reelected. I mean, time and time again, those constituents, when those members go back for their district work periods, when they go back and have those town hall meetings, don't you know that those members of Congress are listening to their voters first? Without the voters, there is no congressman. There is no congresswoman. I mean, they have to listen to it. And they certainly do weigh in. So when you talk about
nothing to do with voters. So you're saying that the only way you're going to get your issue out is by paying money.
When you talk about lobbying comes in a lot of different forms. It's the right to petition Congress. And so when you're talking about the average voters have a voice as well. Voters have weighed in, and those members of Congress certainly listen to them, and they certainly listen to them far before they listen to any lobbyist or any special interest in Congress. So and that's certainly marginalizing what a member of Congress's role is with their constituents.
To my clients.
Let me go back to Jake for a second. Just for a second here, guys. You know, Jake, one of the things I've talked to so many different small business owners on this show about is who represents the small business owners in this community, in this country, frankly. Who goes to Washington, D.C. when it comes to financial spending, things of that nature, to help them get the access to critical funding or things of that nature? And what you find is they're all different avenues, but there isn't one collective voice. In a situation like that, it appears to me as though small business owners are losing out. So what role can we play if we don't have a loud enough voice, and that loud enough voice isn't in Washington, D.C.?
I think, listen, first of all, it makes me nuts to hear bickering back and forth, because maybe it makes for good television, but I think we all need to understand, as a small business owner myself, you know, as entrepreneurs, we live in a great country. It's a great place to create anything that we want, to have the ability to create. The world lets you be what you make them believe you are. It really is all about trying to work together. If a lobbyist, it really sounds like if there are good people out there doing the right thing, as long as they do the right thing and they're not doing anything sideways to want to help not only the constituents, the small business, the mom and pops, our grandmas and grandpas, and especially, guys, our kids. Because if we think about it, what is our most precious resource are our children. This next generation, if they're not strong, if they're not healthy, what happens to our firemen, to our policemen, to our armed services, to our next leaders? We're going to be in big trouble. But I think that we have solutions. There are good people. We all need to work together to make that happen.
But Jake, here's the problem as I see it right now. This president set out with a very aggressive agenda. He said he wasn't going to have lobbyists in his administration. He now does have some lobbyists in his administration. Here's the problem. We're talking about massive overhauls, some of which is overdue. The issue is what we're going to get at the end of the day may be exceptionally watered down because of all this lobbyist activity and because of all this lobbyist money. Is that a good thing at the end of the day?
I just think it's one thing at a time. This president has a monstrous task ahead of him. What's terrific about him is he is a great communicator. He makes people understand. He makes you feel good. He has surrounded himself with terrific people. And as I said in my opening remarks, it's about understanding and focus. And I think he has some great focus. We just need to give it a little bit of time, guys.
This administration has certainly indicated that small businesses, that they recognize the value that small businesses have in this economy and in this economic recovery. There is nothing that any one particular interest group can do to derail that. Trust me, the president will not sign any bill that minimizes the impact that small businesses have in this economic recovery. It's not going to happen. He's already given his promise.
Listen, I can
we have to take a step back and allow him to go through this legislative process and get those solutions to the American public.
Jake?
I think once again, I think that, go ahead. I think that this, you know, I'm a small business owner as well, but you also have to understand is But money being involved in the equation adds to conflicts of interest. Let's take about financial regulation that we're dealing with right now. The fact is, we're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic when all we needed to do was to eliminate the conflicts of interest. Why do we allow all these big investment banks to be involved in all areas of business, managing mom and pop's money in all these various different areas? But what I'm saying is that when you get all...
All right, guys.
They were not involved in the crafting of the legislation. They were not. The Obama administration restricted lobbyists totally from that process.
There hasn't been any legislate, but that's the problem. You understand?
Okay.
The problem is nothing is being fixed.
Zara, Chris, and Jake, we have to leave it there.
Guys,
Jake,
you know what?
I know
I
we're going to...